Hi, this is Steve. I haven't done a vlog in a little while, especially not as the wigged one. It's bald me this time. So yeah, my car has been a nightmare recently. I think I told one car story before, had the little incident where I had to drive up on a little hill in the snow. Nowhere near as crazy as what I've been through recently. So my car it's a Dodge Caliber, and station wagon Dodge Caliber, and it's funny because those have such a unique design. I didn't realize those existed before I actually owned one, and now I see them everywhere. Like I've literally pulled into a parking lot in a restaurant and there were like 3 or 4 Dodge Calibers in a row, like it was a convention. But yeah, mine's getting old. It's about 10 years old now. I think it is a 2007. But a little while back, maybe a few months back, it started to rattle a little bit. When it was running, I noticed some noises starting to creep in here and there. I had it taken to a mechanic. They couldn't find too much wrong with it. They took parts of the engine apart and took a look at it. They couldn't find anything wrong with it. The sound was there, but it wasn't that bad. Come a few months later, my car started to sound worse and worse. It started to grind a little bit. When I was going down the road, I started noticing like a building grinding sound. And then at its worst, I started hearing like metallic rattling, and it sounded like a chainsaw. Like it did not sound like a car anymore. It sounded like a chainsaw. It sounded kind of like a sputtering motorcycle engine at times. Kind of sounded like an old tractor, Had this very distinct like grunt, 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 sound. That just awful noises. And so I didn't know what they were. The fact that I had taken it to a mechanic at one point before it got too bad kind of reassured me. I was like, maybe there's some noises, but maybe things are okay, which is stupid, just stupid, But I kept pushing it. I wasn't getting it looked at because I was like, I don't know if I can afford, how much is this going to cost me if there's all these problems wrong? But it seemed to be running okay other than the noises, right? So, and now I have to say this. I have to throw this detail in. The one time I had it at a mechanic a while back, they said, you might need an alternator in the future. Your alternator's getting old. It might go at some point. So, but me not knowing cars, admittedly, I know jack shit about cars. I thought, maybe I can ride it out. Like I said, it's running okay. So. One day, I think it was a couple weeks ago now, I was driving to work in the morning, and work's a little bit of a distance for me. It's about a 20-30 minute drive. So, I'm driving along the highway. My car's grinding away like a chainsaw, making contact with metal, And I'm going along, the main highway through Pittsburgh, 279. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, I start getting a battery light coming on, on the dash. There's a little light that pops up that says, you have a problem with your battery. And I've had a couple problems with sensors recently, so I guess at first I didn't take it that seriously. I've had problems with things coming on because, cars get older, sensors go. Like I've had problems with a thing coming up saying there's something wrong with my gas cap, which there actually isn't. But again, sensor might be getting old. So I'm like, okay, my car is running. I don't know, I don't know if there's actually something wrong. And, if any of you know cars, the fact that I said, someone even told me, your alternator's going to go at one point is definitely feeding into this. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, maybe I'll, tomorrow, because I don't want to I don't want to miss a day of work. I'll schedule it tomorrow. I'll get through today. Hopefully it'll get me home later. And, I'm driving along, and I realize I'm coming to the fork in the highway where I can either like go left and continue going to work, which is only a couple minutes away at this point, but I'm also losing the chance to go right and bail out and head back towards home. So thankfully, my best instinct takes over, and I head back that way. And, which is good because, the battery light's still on, and I'm starting to notice, my car is starting to smell. It, like this really odd, sweet chemical smell that I've never smelled before. And so I'm starting to panic at this point because I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening. It's just going to die in the middle of the highway. So I'm driving along. All of a sudden, my car starts having power problems. It seems like it's struggling to stay on. My speedometer is like going all over the place. It's like things in the system are like shorting out, starting to reset and stuff. So I'm like, oh shit. I don't, because at this point I reached down, I grabbed my GPS, I put it on the dashboard, and I'm like, get me home. Like, I don't know where I am, I don't know where this road's taking me, just get me home as fast as possible. Because right at the bottom of my hill, where my apartment is the mechanics that I usually go to. So I'm like, I need to get back there. Like, no matter what, that's like 20 minutes away, get me back there. So, So it takes me up through this neighborhood I'm not familiar with, and of course, being my luck, it gets me lost. So it takes me up through this neighborhood, and there's this one particular area of Pittsburgh. I think it was called Brighton Heights. I don't know like the area around the north side of Pittsburgh that well, but I think it's called Brighton Heights because I think my parents might have lived there at one point. But yeah, there's this one part of Brighton Heights, if that's what this area is called, where my GPS insists that you take a turn onto a road that doesn't actually exist. There's literally like a guardrail there. There's no road there. So of course, I think I encountered this once before when I got detoured up that way. But of course, my GPS, not realizing how severe this situation is trying to have me turn through a guardrail. So eventually I find my way back. My car is just sputtering. And dying and stalling. And I'm like, just please get me back to the area where I live so I can get back to, hopefully the mechanics are open. Like, I don't know what's going to happen if they're not open. So 20 minutes of extremely stressful driving later, I drop it off at the mechanics. I'm just like, yeah, I hate to do this in an emergency, but my car is dead. Please just take this, do whatever you want. So, yeah. Now, a lot of miraculous things happened here. One, they don't know, the mechanic even said, I don't know how you made it back in one piece. I don't know how this car made it back the 20-minute trip. Because you figure, I got lost at one point too, so that dragged it out even more. But, yeah, he said, I don't know how you made it back. And so I walked up to a restaurant to get some breakfast and wait for my parents to come pick me up, because I had to call them and tell them, my car died on the way to work. I have no transportation now. So I ended up missing a day of work. And I'm sitting there and just waiting for the call because I don't know, what's wrong. I mean, my mind should have went, bad alternator. He even told you, the battery was flaking out. So I'm sitting there and I get a call from the mechanics, and it's gonna empty my wallet trying to get this fixed. But I travel a lot. I need a car. I get it fixed. So it was the alternator is what died. It literally fell to pieces, like collapsed in on itself. Because the guy took it out of the box and is shaking it, and there's just pieces everywhere. This thing is completely shot. So that died in the middle of the highway. My car had to transfer the power over strictly to the battery. The battery is what got me back. Now, I had the good fortune of having just gotten a battery, I think, within the last year, so it was still fairly fresh. If it wasn't, I would not have. It would have died at some point. So I had to get the alternator replaced. I had to get a new battery because the trip back destroyed my battery to the point where they couldn't even recharge it. They tried to recharge it and it wouldn't even take a charge anymore. And a bearing connected to my drive pulley was shot as well, which is what was making like the chainsaw grinding, right? Because he said it was scraping against something and like spewing pieces of metal all over the place. So, I mean, I had like shards of metal in the drive pulley, which is what was causing the grinding. So, so yeah. So I got everything. I just said, fix everything. Just fix everything. And yeah, it took a chunk out of my wallet, but my car runs like a champ now. You start it up and it's completely quiet, but yeah. So, car nightmare. Now, let me explain something because I've been thinking over this a lot, and there were a lot of ways that whole situation could have gone so much worse. Now, keep in mind, I was still within a half hour from home, from safety, basically. I was within a half an hour where I could get my car back to a place where I could just drop it off and have it be fixed. So here's the thing. Here's a lot of ways that this could have gone wrong. Now, I think it was maybe a couple weeks before. I think it wasn't the weekend. It wasn't like the weekend of that week, but it was the one before that. I was supposed to go to New York. I was supposed to drive to Rochester for a Rocky rehearsal, and didn't because I got sick. I had a really bad cold, and I was like, I woke up Saturday morning and I was like, I can't do this. So there's a good chance that if I had pushed it and driven to New York, it would have died. It would have accelerated the process of my alternator breaking down, and I probably would have died somewhere. No, I wouldn't have. My car, you know what I mean. It would have died somewhere on the highway between Pittsburgh and Rochester, which, AAA only covers so far, but yeah, I just have all these horrific like visions of having to drive a car back and trying to make it back like as far into like the 300 miles back to Pittsburgh as possible, and it just dying completely on the side of the road. Okay, so thankfully that didn't happen because I got sick and couldn't go to New York. The next weekend though, I did go to Akron. And, again, there was a good possibility it could have died, coming to or from Akron, and thankfully it didn't. Thankfully, I made it there and back okay. Excuse me. And it died, later that week. But, yeah, between, making it through Akron okay, not, making it work. Because, if I had gone to New York and I somehow made it through the New York trip, it would have died on the way back from Akron. Like, there's no doubt about that. That would have sped up. I might not have even made it to Akron, right? So, yeah. Yeah, that was the saga of my alternator. But there is one good thing, though, that I was putting off because it's winter and it wasn't really a big deal at the time, but they did in the process, since I had to take my AC apart to get to my alternator, they did recharge my AC because my AC hadn't worked since sometime this past summer. I don't know if it shorted out or something happened to it where I was driving, I was coming back from a place that was a ways away, and I ended up having to drive through floodwaters because it started like dumping rain worst rain I've ever driven in. And just in the flow of traffic, I ended up going through like a really, really deep patch of water, and my AC cut out. It started steaming. I actually thought my car was on fire. You know, I pulled over when it was safe and popped the hood, and you know, I expected all this smoke to come pouring out, but no, it was. I think it was just my AC was cooking the water that splashed up inside. But yeah, ever since then, my AC didn't work. So yeah, it's nice to actually turn it on and have cold air come out finally. But because I did make some summer trips last year where I didn't have any. But all right, I think I gotta go. I gotta go dress up. I am doing another video tonight. I'm trying to catch up since I haven't been doing videos that much recently, so I'm trying to catch up. I'm going to do another one, but I have to transform myself again. So, in that case, this is where I shall leave you. Hopefully you enjoyed my nightmarish car stories, and I shall see you soon. This has been Steve, sometimes known as your friendly neighborhood man in Magenta wig, and I need to go turn into someone else, not man in Magenta wig. But you'll see that as well, hopefully soon. So I bid you good night.